Welcome to Infidelity Nest. In today's video, we unravel a story about loneliness, boundaries, and the quiet storms that can rise inside a person when they least expect it. The breeze startled me. I stood on the porch barefoot, coffee cooling in my hand. The Carolina air carried that in-between chill. Morning not yet warm, night not fully gone. The wind came suddenly, pulling at my sundress, lifting the hem higher than I'd ever allow, if not caught off guard. That's when I saw him. Mark, my neighbor from 2 houses down. He froze at the top of the steps, eyes locked, pulse visible in his throat. 1 second. That's all it took to change everything. He said nothing. I said nothing. The silence between us became its own language. It wasn't shock that flickered across his face. It was something older, something dangerous. That moment lingered in the air, fragile but heavy, as if the world itself was waiting to see what either of us would do next. I didn't know then that it would be the beginning of something I'd both crave and regret. My name is Lorraine. I'm 60 years old, and my life has grown quiet. Too quiet. I live just outside Savannah, in a white house that still smells faintly of the man who left it. My husband of 34 years walked out 2 summers ago. He didn't take much. Just his clothes, his cologne, and the parts of me that used to feel alive. He left for someone younger, someone who still laughed easily. I didn't cry when he left. I had already done enough crying while he was still here. Mark is 35. He moved into the neighborhood 5 years ago with his wife, Julia, and their little boy. They were that couple everyone notices. The kind that waves when they drive by, the kind that makes marriage look effortless. Julia taught at the local school, and Mark ran a small repair business. He was always around, fixing fences, patching roofs, helping neighbors. After my husband left, he began helping me too. It started with small things. A broken latch, a loose step, a leaky faucet. He never stayed long, never asked for payment. "You remind me of my mom," he'd said once with a grin. I laughed then. I don't laugh much anymore. That morning when the wind caught me off guard, I saw something in his eyes that wasn't neighborly concern. It was something more complicated. He cleared his throat and looked away. "Morning, Lorraine," he said. His tone cracked like old paint. I tugged my sweater closed, pretending composure. "You're early," I murmured, though I hadn't known he was coming at all. He smiled faintly, awkward, uncertain. "Thought I'd check on those gutters for you before the rain starts this week." That was a lie. I hadn't asked for help, but instead of questioning it, I stepped aside. "Come in," I said. He walked past me close enough for the air between us to change. I told myself I was imagining it, the warmth, the pull, the awareness. But even after he left that morning, the space he'd occupied lingered like the ghost of a conversation unfinished. That night, standing before the mirror, I didn't study the lines of age or time. I studied my eyes, searching for the truth. What did he see? And worse, why did I want him to see it? He came back the next day. No warning, no call. His truck rolled into my driveway like it belonged there. This time I was prepared. A dress that covered everything, shoes, and a calm that was mostly an act. "Still worried about the gutters?" I asked. He smiled, rubbing the back of his neck. "Actually, Julia said your kitchen faucet's leaking." Another lie. Another chance, and once again I let him in. We sat in the kitchen. The clock ticked too loudly. I moved dishes that didn't need moving just to avoid his gaze. Then he asked, "You doing all right?" The question landed heavier than it should have. "I'm fine," I said. "Why?" He looked down, thumb tracing the rim of his coffee cup. "You seem quieter lately," I smiled faintly. "That's because I am." He nodded slowly. "Sometimes, even when I'm home, I feel like a stranger in my own life. Like we're just pretending to remember how to love each other." I leaned in. "Marriage isn't always a home," I said softly. "Sometimes it's just a hallway with too many locked doors." That was the line that opened one. We talked for 2 hours. Not about faucets or gutters, but about loss, loneliness, and the people we used to be. He said he missed being noticed. I confessed I missed who I was when someone loved me. When he reached for the sugar, his hand brushed mine. We froze. I could have pulled away. I didn't. After my husband left, I realized what I missed most wasn't him. It was being seen. And Mark, in his quiet, conflicted way, saw me. Not the 60-year-old woman, not the neighbor he helped out of kindness, but me. He began stopping by more often, each visit easier than the last. The lies became smaller, the silences longer. One evening, as he stood at the door, he whispered, "I tell you things I don't even tell Julia." "Is that wrong?" I asked. He met my eyes. "Maybe," he said, "but it feels honest." He nodded once, like he'd been waiting for permission. By the third time, there were no excuses left. No talk of gutters or sinks. Julia was away with their son. His truck appeared again, same as before, but this time he didn't knock. He just stood there, waiting. I opened the door and stepped aside. He entered quietly, like someone coming home to a place they shouldn't. We sat in the living room, sunlight spilling across the carpet, dust floating like secrets in the air. No words, no movement, just tension so thick it felt alive. Finally, he said, "I think about you more than I should." His voice trembled, but his eyes didn't. I felt my heart catch in my throat. "Do you think about her when you're here?" I asked. His jaw tightened. "I try to." We sat side by side, the space between us pulsing. I could feel his warmth, hear his breathing, taste the decision waiting to happen. He lifted his hand slowly, hovering it between us, waiting for me to take it. I didn't, but I wanted to. He leaned closer. Not enough to cross the line, just enough to test it, to see if I'd move. I didn't move toward him. I didn't move away. And sometimes that stillness is where the betrayal begins. That moment became a secret neither of us spoke of. He left soon after, the sound of his truck fading into the humid night. I sat alone, the coffee cold again, my pulse still echoing in my ears. I told myself it was nothing, just loneliness mistaking kindness for affection. But deep down I knew better. Days passed. I tried to avoid him, but the neighborhood is small, and silence doesn't erase temptation. It feeds it. Every time I saw his truck drive by, my chest tightened. Every time he waved, I looked away too slowly. Then one evening, I saw Julia in the grocery store. She smiled, warm and tired. "Mark's been busy lately," she said. "Working long hours?" I forced a smile. "He's a good man," I replied. My voice didn't sound like mine. That night, I couldn't sleep. Guilt has a way of whispering when the world goes quiet. I walked through my empty house, every creak of the floorboards sounding like a confession. I stood at the window looking toward his house. One porch light still glowed. I wondered if he was awake, thinking the same thing I was. The next morning, he showed up again. "You left this in the yard," he said, holding a small garden glove. It wasn't mine. I think he just needed a reason to see me. We stood there, silent, stretching. Finally, I said, "You can't keep coming here like this." "I know," he whispered, "but I don't know how to stop." Neither did I. He stepped closer, and for the briefest moment, I thought the world might stop spinning altogether. But then I remembered who I was and who I refused to become. I turned away. "Mark, go home," I said. My voice broke halfway through. He hesitated, then nodded, slow and heavy. "Take care of yourself, Lorraine." He left. That was the last time we spoke. Weeks turned into months. The seasons shifted, the air changed, and life moved forward the way it always does. Quietly, cruelly, without asking permission. Julia and Mark sold their house not long after. I watched the moving truck pull away from my window. No wave, no goodbye, just absence filling the air where something dangerous once lived. I still walk the porch some mornings, coffee in hand, breeze tugging at my dress. Sometimes I think I see him down the street, but it's always someone else. Maybe that's for the best. Some stories don't need endings. They need distance. Because the truth is, temptation isn't always about desire. Sometimes it's about recognition. Sometimes it's just wanting to be seen one more time before the world forgets you. And maybe, just maybe, that's the cruelest kind of infidelity there is, the one that never quite happens, but never fully leaves. So if you've ever stood at the edge of a choice that could undo you, remember this: silence can be a decision too. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that dive deep into the hidden corners of the human heart. Until next time, this is Infidelity Nest, where every story reminds us that the lines we draw aren't always the ones we keep.